Welcome and welcome back to the space. Go ahead and get cozy, kick off your shoes because you have officially landed on the chat back couch. And I am your host, Coach Esha. And this is where I am keeping you connected with everyday people from around the net doing great things, amazing things. And I'm so glad that you are here. So make sure you drop down in the description box, guys, for all the details on how to tap in with today's guest and other ways that you can support the channel. So I have the pleasure of sharing this space today with Ra One, and I'm going to let him get into his business and let the neighbors know who he is, what you do, any good news that you want to share with the folks here on Chatback.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate you having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. I
No problem.
am Rawan. At this particular moment, I do run a platform called Sparking Conversation. I like to say that I talk to some of the world's most interesting people. And with that, I just, am just expanding my journalism journey as far as making sure that the people that are in the circle or in the space that, I understand where we are as a group, getting the right information. Because sometimes I think people as a group of people, we always go by what we told, but we never go by, exact facts that we can actually back up and there's data behind it. So, I
Mm,
like to make sure that I get that out to the people. So just following my purpose, I'm gonna say, you know what I mean? And
right.
yeah,
Okay.
among a bunch of other things, but yeah, most importantly, that's what we focused on right now.
Okay. So you've always been into journalism, or is this something? Oh, this is a recent career. Like, how long have you been doing journalism?
Well, no, it's not. I guess it's always been a thing of being able to have conversations with people. I've always been able to, for some reason, people open up to me and have certain types of conversation that they don't have with other people. And I
Mhm.
think that's what opened me up to the thought process of saying, asking the right questions. A lot of times, it
Mm,
helps to get to the right space. You know,
right.
um, Everybody don't always have people that they could tell things to without having to worry about judgment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
being able to ask the right questions will also help people to feel more comfortable about how they communicate with you because it allows them to think and not just always pour, which
Hmm.
also helps people to actually maybe see where they can help themselves, because you gotta think about it in our community, mental illness is a real thing and very
Amen.
seldom is it talked about because people just don't have people to talk to. So,
Mhm.
journalism is one of those things that force you to have to go get the facts, right? Because you don't want to be loud and wrong. We know that people use propaganda, right?
Yeah.
But we know that when it comes down to like really wanting to know how to make the next move, if you're playing chess, not checkers, then journalism or having a platform, it'll cause you to have to really go get out there and try to get the information and not just repeat some shit you heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. That's a factor. And I want to tap back in on the mental health thing. I do know that over the years, people have been opening up, at least people I've been around, have been opening up a lot more about their mental health and just, mental health in general. And so I feel like the conversations are moving in the right direction. For a long time, people were shamed for talking about stuff like that or for feeling like there was anything wrong. And I won't speak for all Black communities around the world, but I do know that a lot of people I grew up with were not encouraged to like go to therapy and talk to somebody about things. We held a lot of
Right.
stuff in, so that stuff definitely does carry with you into adulthood and create some interesting experiences. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure we run back on that one because I'm huge advocate for taking care of yourself, especially mentally. And the times that we live in right now is critical to be taking care of your mental health. Do you
Facts.
have do you have any sound advice for anybody who may be in that space of kind of like in between where they want to talk to somebody but maybe they don't have anybody to talk to? What kind of advice would you give to them to like get in that more in that comfort zone?
That's the thing. That's why it's very hard to like really try to give people advice outside of you knowing who they can personally talk to because like I said, they may open up to the wrong person. So I always suggest to find an outlet, like a positive outlet. Some people don't know that they have certain type of gifts or because they haven't been pushed in it. I think because people may not wake up in the morning and desire to do a certain thing, and they don't know that they can. So I would suggest that when people don't really have anyone to talk to like that, but they have some real serious stuff that they want to talk about, maybe they might want to start writing. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like journaling or just writing the thoughts down that they have. because a
Right.
lot of times when you write it down, you give it an outlet, right? You give it a place for it to go versus just staying in your head, and you constantly are thinking about the things that have you in, that space that may cause you to feel depression or
Right.
anxiety or even feeling sorry for different choices you made in life. And we all are here to learn. So making bad choices in life is not something that we should hold over our own heads for the duration of our lives, but so many people do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I would suggest finding an outlet that's not an escape, right? It's like
Mhm.
not finding alcohol and drugs and different other things to try to escape the things that you're dealing with, but find an outlet to express it. If you can't find people, then find paper. Or
Right.
nowadays, I guess, find your keyboard,
Mhm.
find Microsoft Word or something like,
Right.
and start to get the things that's in you out. And I think as you read them, your mind will help you to start processing maybe,
Yeah.
your own ways to help yourself. Because technically, when you talking to people too, you got to make sure you pick the right people to talk to, because you want to talk in a way where you can get something from the conversation, not just pour out to other people. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times people you may pour into about your problems, they got their own problems, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So they can't always absorb everything for you unless there's a solution base. And then,
Right.
and that's hard too, because a lot of people, all they want to do is feel what they feel, and they don't really want a solution,
You got
right?
that.
Because it helps them to feel a certain way in their flesh. The mind can't tell the difference between a real scenario that you've gone through or just the way that you're thinking. So your
Mhm.
body gonna react to it, right? So I just feel like for anybody out there, the only advice I could give them, if you don't have a person that you could get things out to, you know what I mean? I would say you should just find you an outlet that can allow you to express yourself without judgment. And a lot
Right.
of
Right.
times writing is that. And if you can't write it, not because you can't write, but like if that's not something that you could take up with, then find you a voice recorder app on your phone, and
Mhm.
start to talk to that, right? And get the thoughts out. And maybe every now and then when you go back to listen to it, you can help you to, see what type of emotion you get off of what you hear and be able to process it that way as well too. So you got to
Right.
find an outlet. That would be my thing. Even if you have people to talk to, still find you an outlet.
That's perfect advice, actually. I think it's probably the most important part of, helping people through anything, but making sure that we remind ourselves that we have the power within ourselves to do a lot of what we seek other people to do or feel. And
Right.
I know that journaling is a great outlet for sure. It's research behind it if you want to go look it up. But journaling is definitely one of those tools, self help tools that you can use to help you get thoughts out, write ideas, just talk. If you, like you said, you have nobody to talk to, and I do 100% support voice notes. I think sometimes I've listened back to my old voice notes and I've laughed at some of the things that I've said up there. Because looking forward now, I'm just like, man, look at how far I've come from that space. So yeah, that was great advice, and it goes along with the next part of what I wanted to say, which is where I have this heart to heart conversation called Chat Back and Chew. And this month we've been dedicating the show to discussing self concept and how shifting your self concept can impact your overall well being. And since we were talking about mental health, I think when you shift your self concept, your mental health is like one of the first things that will benefit from this practice. And it'll help you
Right.
sustain self care because it's not a one time thing. It's not a 1 month thing. Self care is an everyday thing, and whatever you do for your self care is what you do. But it is an ongoing practice. So I'm asking my guests if you could share a personal moment that created a noticeable shift for you in your self concept and how it helped you take better care of yourself.
Let me see. That's a good question. The thing, I don't know if it was like any particular thing.
Hmm.
I think it was more so just having, I guess, having a pride by being a man, because having ego and pride, that's two different things. I know people like to lump them together when it comes down to being a man, but it's different. You have a certain type of pride. Ego is more of a thing that that you use to boost yourself up, you know what I mean? And then so those things can be easily broken, or it could be considered fragile if your validation comes from other people. But the
Right.
pride that you have in yourself and the things that you believe and what you feel, that causes you not to be shaken or moving. That causes you to always be that person that you are, and people accept you for who you are. So that's the difference between pride and ego, even though people like to pull it together. So I think for me, it was more of a pride thing. It was more of a, the way that I want people to see me is the way that I want to see myself. Right.
Right.
So I'm in the gym because that's the way I want to see myself, not
Right.
because I want other people to see me a certain way, or I do the things that I do, whether it's in the creative space and doing the content or filming or music or the fashion or clothing line. If it's any of those things like that, it's not because I'm chasing something, it's because it's a part of me. So
Mhm.
I have pride in the things that I do. That's why I do it at a certain level. But um yeah, for me, it's always been that sense of having that pride of, like I said, wanting people to see me how I see myself, which caused me to always have this type of mindset to say, if this ain't going a certain way, I need to fix this. So whether, like I said, whether it was my health, whether it was like, what, I don't like the way I feel when it comes to this, I need to fix it. So boom, I immediately get into the mindset of fixing it.
Right.
And so it's those things, right? It's like once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. So it's
Mhm.
that type of thing. And then with getting older, you want to still be able to be functional, right? You don't want to have to rely on all of these outside things to try to keep you going. Like,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like, especially as a man, you don't want to be around here having no prescription sent to your door every month because you ain't got no lead in your pencil. And most of the
Mm.
time, it's like that because you ain't taking care of yourself. It's not because
Yeah.
you're getting older. It's because you're not taking care of the vehicle, right?
Right.
So those are things that you want to. Oh, so pride, you know what I mean? You don't want to not be able to be in a position where you cannot perform, right? So you have to have a certain pride about yourself. So that means that you might have to work a certain amount of hours a day to pay your bills, but you still gonna have to get in that gym, or you still gonna have to find time to exercise, or you still gonna. It's no excuse for you, like you know what I
Right.
mean. Like when it comes to you, that's all you got. So you
Mhm.
can't make an excuse for that just because you got responsibility. You your number one responsibility. So yeah,
Amen. That's right. That is so right. Like community of self first. And I know that's a hard concept for a lot of people to um take in, but it's a real thing. Self-preservation is a real thing, and it's a real skill that people need to make sure that they are practicing regularly, because I'm noticing that the older people are looking a lot better than some of the younger people these days, like people in their
yeah,
70s and 60s and 80s. So I hope that that is a wake up call and a message, or a motivation at least, for people to make sure that they are investing in their bodies and their minds and all of that as you go through professional development. Personal development should also be a part of that. And so for me, I know like self concept work is one of those. It plays on both sides. It can play on the personal and the professional, depending on what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go. But
right,
definitely taking care of your vessel is important, period. So
yeah.
for you, how did that, when you got to that space, and when you really like put your foot down about it, how was it for you setting those boundaries, not just with other people, but like with yourself? Because I know when you're shifting like that, there'll be some people who can't come along. There'll be some who may not agree with it. And not that you have to care, but how do you maintain your boundaries so that you don't lose sight of what you're trying to build for yourself?
Well, because I mean, I guess based on your question, it's more based about relationships, right? Of other
Mhm.
people. Whenever you make the choice to do something for yourself, and you know that's where other people need to measure whether they made the right choice by having you in their life or not. It's not so much about whether you made the right choices, about who you chose. Because if people need examples of someone that's going to be resilient, they need to at least have somebody around that they feel like is going to be at least resilient for themselves. Because if they're going to do that for themselves based on the emotion of love, then they will most likely do those same things or put in the same amount of work for the people or the things that they love, right?
Mhm.
But for men, we don't get the opportunity to well, I understand that men are being raised differently now, so that's not
Yeah.
across the board, but in
Mhm.
technically we all should be in a position where we're in a leadership role. So let's think about it when it's of a personal relationship, like with your person, all right?
Right.
And then you make a lifestyle choice, like, yo, I'm not gonna be eating this no more, I'm not gonna be doing this, and then I'm gonna dedicate this much time a week to doing this. And then you have a person that's in your life who's not agreeing with that for some type of way. Well,
Yeah.
then the choices that of words that people use is what convicts people. So when you got somebody that don't agree with what you're doing, they'll throw words like selfish and things around because you're thinking about yourself. When in actuality, those are not the right people for you, because if they really understood like what it's meant to have somebody who at least cares about themselves, that means they'll care about you. People who don't
Mhm.
care about themselves are definitely not going to care about you and your stuff. Like it's
Right.
just a thing. It's like people who've always been given something, they don't appreciate because they didn't earn it. So it's
Mhm.
easy for them to go out there and tear something up, or not pay attention to the things that were given to them because they didn't have to earn it. They didn't have to pay for it. It's just always given to them. Versus a person who had to really go out here and get it. So when it comes down